John had always been a good father, attentive, loving, and maybe a little overprotective of his daughter, Lily. But things changed after the accident. His wife's death was sudden, violent, and left a hole in his life he couldn't fill. He started spending more time alone in the basement, muttering to himself. At first, Lily thought he was just sad. Then he started talking about the tooth fairy. It began innocently enough. Lily, 6 years old, came running to him with her first loose tooth. "Daddy, look, my tooth is wiggly," she said, beaming. John froze, his eyes locking onto the tiny tooth like it was something otherworldly. "Ah, the tooth fairy," he whispered almost to himself. Then, louder, he added, "Yes, sweetie, we'll leave it under your pillow." That night, as Lily slept, John sat in his darkened kitchen with the tooth in his hand. He hadn't been to work in weeks. Bills piled up on the counter, but he barely noticed them anymore. All he could hear was the voice in his head. "You must give it to her," it whispered. "She watches, she waits, and she'll take what's owed if you don't give her the gift." John didn't sleep that night. When Lily lost her second tooth, John didn't wait for her to bring it to him. He plucked it out himself while she cried, promising her it was all for the tooth fairy. "She's going to love this one, Lily," he said, staring at the tooth as if it held some divine power. Lily didn't understand, but she stopped crying when he smiled at her. Things only got worse. By the time Lily lost her fourth tooth, she didn't bother telling her father. She hid it under her pillow herself, hoping to keep it safe. But John found it anyway. He'd started searching her room at night, muttering about how the tooth fairy would be angry if she didn't get her offerings. One night, Lily woke up to find her father standing over her bed, staring at her face. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling. "She's watching, Lily," he said, his voice distant. "She's always watching. We have to keep her happy." The next morning, Lily told her teacher she didn't want to go home anymore. Her teacher asked why, but Lily couldn't explain it. "Daddy's just weird now," she said. Child Protective Services was called, but when they visited, John was charming and calm, insisting everything was fine. "Just a little rough patch," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. That night, Lily lost another tooth. This time, John didn't wait for it to fall out on its own. He woke her up in the middle of the night, holding a pair of pliers. "It's time, Lily," he said, his voice trembling with excitement. "She needs it." Lily screamed and tried to run, but John was too strong. He pinned her down and yanked the tooth out while she sobbed and begged him to stop. Blood dripped onto her pillow as he held up the tooth. "She'll be so pleased," he whispered, his eyes wide and unblinking. That was the last straw. Lily ran away the next day, barefoot and bleeding, and flagged down a neighbor for help. The police were called, and John was taken into custody. But the story doesn't end there. When the police searched John's basement, they found jars, dozens of them, each one containing a tiny, bloody tooth. Scratched into the walls were symbols and words in a language no one could read. And in the corner of the room, they found something else. A crude shrine made of children's teeth and bits of bone. At the center was a doll, ancient and grotesque, with empty sockets where its eyes should have been. The air around it smelled of decay and burned flesh. The police tried to take the shrine apart, but every officer who touched it became violently ill. Eventually, the doll was sealed away and sent to an undisclosed location. John remains in a psychiatric facility to this day, ranting about how the tooth fairy is coming for him because he failed to deliver. His words haunt the staff, especially when he screams at night, "She's watching, she's always watching." As for Lily, she was placed with a foster family. She doesn't talk much anymore, but sometimes, late at night, she swears she can hear faint whispers coming from the shadows of her room.